Hey, I'm Daniel and welcome back to another Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era video. Though today's gonna be a little bit different one because Chip Theory Games is about to launch a new campaign expansions and I'll just gonna be sharing my opinion on that. Literally just scrolling the page and casually letting you know what I guys think about it. That's the whole premise of this video. Now initially when I've been thinking about the idea of making this video, I thought maybe I should frame it as whether to back or not to back. You know, there is kind of like a format on the web, you've probably seen some other creators doing, but then I realized that I probably just can't do this, and there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I love this game. If you are new here, you can just look at the videos on my channel to find that I have probably around 20 videos about this game already, and I have plenty of more in my backlog video ideas, so I don't just create, a single first impression video and then move on. I like going deeper into games. That's the whole reason I created this channel, and these games probably inspired me even in some way. The second reason is that I'm now apparently a content creator making content about this game, and one can argue that I'm sort of get benefit from more people exploring this game, so I never personally thought about it this way, but I guess this could be a legit argument. And lastly, I've been participating in the playtesting program with Chip Theory Games, playtesting some of the upcoming stuff that we may or may not see on this campaign, so all of that is just to say that I am clearly biased towards this game, and you know what, I thought it would be just much more honest with you guys if I just lean fully into that and acknowledge that hell yes, I love this game, and I'm excited about and here is why, rather than trying to be, kind of on the fence back or not to back. I think this is just more honest with you. With that being said, I'll still try to not fanboy too much and just share my honest thoughts, whether it's some pros and cons if we'll find any, so just basically share my analytics and kind of break down the way that usually I approach all of my videos. So hopefully, whether you are a seasoned player or just you find out this Chip Theory Games game for the first time, I hope you can still see some value in this video. But with that now out of the way, let's jump straight into my computer, so let's just come over here, hopefully you can still see me like that. And yeah, oh wow, I have not refreshed this page, I haven't even scrolled down. By the time I pressed recording on my camera, there was still a countdown going on here, so I'm genuinely, it's my first time experience. Alright, so let's scroll and see the Elder Scrolls Heroes of Tamriel. And let's just double check to make sure that everything is up to date. Let me refresh the page once again. Yeah, I think we're good. Alright, so let's see what we have. Heroes of Tamriel, yeah, that's quite a lot of boxes here, and let's see what we can find there, all the juicy details. Now I'm not gonna read this kind of flavor text, but let's see what the actual content begins. Alright, yeah, accolades, all of that. Yeah, base game box contents, yeah, we already know what's in the kind of base game, so I'm gonna skip this one through. Progression and tracker gear. Yep, let's go over that. Gameplay. Yep, we pretty know how the gameplay works. At least, yeah, the new gameplay expansion. Yeah, this is where the fun stuff begins, at least for me. So, Heroes of Tamriel. Now, what this includes: adventure chips, new heroes, new art attribute tokens, new skill line in town. Study new skill. Okay. Skill dice? Hold on. I thought that this pack includes only new heroes. Does this list all of the new things that we're gonna see? Not in this particular box, but across the multiple boxes. I think that's a little bit more realistic, because I don't think this particular box includes all of that, which a little bit confusing, I must say, but yeah, so become a warrior or witch hunter, yep, race sheets, all of that, fantastic. So we see new racial art, which is awesome. And let me just scroll a little bit to the Summerset Expansion. Okay, yeah, okay. So let's first talk about this Heroes of Tamriel, and I think this thing a little bit kind of confusing now, as you can just probably see me doing that, thinking that this all includes here, but no. Like this pack, Heroes of Tamriel, it includes, at least from my understanding, only the new heroes. Hold on. On the other hand, look, I can see these cards as well. No, apparently, this pack now includes the skill lines and the class sheets as well. Wow, this is surprising. honestly, that's genuinely surprising. Okay, so I don't think many people realize, but these aren't just new artwork, but these race sheets are basically almost, you can think about as new races. It's the same races, but with new racial abilities. I think this would be more correct way to say that. And I think I was among some of people back a year ago when the base game released, thinking that, hey, it would be cool someday to have like alternative artwork for different class fantasies, whether if you want to play a certain kind of archetype and you want your hero art to match that, that would be pretty cool. And apparently Cheap Silver Games was listening and they made this, but this is not just art, these are new racial abilities. Wow. Now, of course, I knew there are some abilities I hear, but I think that's still surprising, the fact that they made it. It's basically one of the things that you never know that you want it until now you see this. And I think racial abilities are really change the way you play and can even approach build sometimes. And in case you're new to this game, racial abilities are one of the things that can happen once per battle, but they are pretty impactful. For example, like you have an extra additional turn, or you can recover extra dice, or you can get invisible for a turn or two. So those kind of things, and they are pretty strong in their power, although not all of them. And I have a racial ability tier list if it's something that you want to check it out. But now we basically have a double of that amount. So now instead of having just 10 race sheets with 20 different artwork, we now have another 10 sheets with another 10 new racial abilities. Wow, this is so awesome. And we in the community now probably need to create some kind of like a labels how we can identify them, because, you know, I've been thinking about this, how I could potentially explain somebody that, you know, certain builds, let's say, just to create a Breton character, like I'm playing as a Breton sorcerer, for example. But now you need to specify, like, is it Breton A or Breton B? I think that's actually A or B might be a legit way of doing that. Just basically like a short code or label. Otherwise, how we would know which ability, you know, I mean, calling the abilities by name can be a little bit lengthy. So I think, yeah, just calling them Breton A or Breton B, for example, might be a legit way of kind of differentiation between the different versions of those racial abilities. But this is really cool. Now, one thing I find just a little bit confusing is the fact that this whole campaign, the crowdfunding kind of page, is called Heroes of Tamriel, which is a lovely name. And so is this particular pack also called Heroes of Tamriel, which I think it's a great name. It's a fitting name, but it's the same name for the campaign and for this particular pack. And I've already seen a conversation of people having like, hey, I plan to back Heroes of Tamriel, and like, which one do you mean, the whole campaign or just this pack? I think just slightly confusing. I know it's a minor critique, but I think it does add just a tiny bit of confusion. In any case, yeah, so that's new heroes, new racial abilities, and apparently some other stuff as well. Wow, we have dual wielding and storm calling has a new skill lines included in this pack, as well as warrior and witch hunter. Wow, this is not what I expect, honestly. All right, but let's move on. Beautiful art to match any class fantasy you can think of. Yeah, I think this is all good. Nice. Now, new region expansions, and we have probably 2, right? Unless there is another surprise, but it's probably at least 2 that we've been confirmed. It's coming in this campaign. These are Summerset and Elsweyr. And I'm saying only 2 because we know for the fact that there are 3 expansions are planning overall, and we knew this basically since the day one, because again, if you're new to the game, the way the game structures that you choose a certain province, you complete the quest, and by the end of that session, by the end of the quest, you have a choice between 3 different options of other provinces that you can go to for your next session. And those new regions, they already were mentioned in the base game. So basically, we knew that Summerset and Elsweyr and the 3rd region, Hammerfell, are also coming. They basically were confirmed initially since the first place. But now, looking at this banner that we see only 2 packs, which are Summerset and Elsweyr, it means that there is no 3rd province on this campaign. And now, initially, when Cheap Silver Games confirmed that only 2 regions come into this campaign, I must admit I was just a tiny bit upset, because again, I know 3 coming out, but only 2 of them will be released now, like, oh, that's a bummer. But then I've been thinking a little bit more and realized this is actually great, because I have to be honest, I had a little fear that this campaign that we see now, that could have been the last campaign for Cheap Theory Games. At least that I had a little fear if they were released everything at once. And you've been thinking that Elder Scrolls is a huge success for the company. Obviously, it's been a huge success in all ways, and it's pushing the company to the new heights, which is amazing. But I think they have been very kindly transparent on their plans, what they do, and from what we heard from their kind of business strategy things, they probably want to focus more on their own stuff rather than just the IP, because again, it makes the development a little bit quicker and easier. It probably leaves them with more margin. So all of this good stuff, plus they already mentioned that they are going to be working, or probably already started working, on a new version of Too Many Bones 2.0, if you will. And then from there, like knowing the scope of the game, is probably going to have some expansions and all of that. So I just could presume that a lot of their kind of intellectual power and energy will be focused on that direction, and I'm not sure how much will be left on Elder Scrolls. But again, that was my fear, that I thought that this campaign might be the last. But now seeing that we have 2 provinces, which means that a third one is still coming next year potentially, or somewhere in the future, is actually great. I think it gives me hope that we're gonna see more content from Cheap Theory Games specifically on the Elder Scrolls, and it's great. And if we look back at the way first the Valenwood expansion was announced, it was the part of the initial wave of campaign where all of the base game was released along with some other stuff, and now we see those 2 new regions again released alongside some other great stuff. And if we extrapolate from that, I think it's going to be pretty safe to assume that the next campaign or whatever that be with a new region, they will also be alongside other stuff. So again, this is great. I think this basically is a reassurance from Cheap Theory Games that we'll see more for Elder Scrolls, and this is great. This is great news all around. But now actually, even before scrolling down and looking at what's inside this specific province, I think it's going to be a valid question and ask, do you even need another expansion, another kind of province and all of that? And kind of generally speaking, I think of expansions in 2 ways, again, depending on the game structure and kind of the way how you can implement those expansions. I think in some campaigns where the expansion is sort of a linear progression, for example, if you complete the first 100 scenarios, and then you're gonna have a new box that you can kind of add later as an extra for those who completed everything. That's one thing, and for those kind of expansions, I have a little bit more problem, because generally speaking, not everyone who buys a game, completes the game at a full, and honestly, I'm probably guilty in myself with that. I think I purchased the expansions for Gloomhaven First Edition called Forgotten Circles, and the way you can implement that expansion is, again, you need to complete pretty much the entire Gloomhaven game, which I did, but then after that, instead of moving on to the expansion, we started a new campaign. So all in all, I don't think I actually played that expansion, even though it's here for many years now on my shelf. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit tricky sometimes for those kind of expansions. But because the Elder Scrolls, this structure is very modular and you can mix and match things as you go, I think you get much more value out of those kind of expansions that you can mix in right away, and you can enjoy all of their content and mix with the existing content. It's, in a sense, I think the sum is greater than the individual parts. So it's basically like 1 + 1 = 3, that kind of weird maths, when by adding more stuff, by throwing more of those skill lines and provisions into the mix, you're increasing the enjoyment even of the base game, which I think is excellent. And personally, this is kind of the exact expansion structure that I love to see nowadays. Alright, but now let's actually scroll through and see what's inside this specific Summerset expansion. And we're gonna have Clash Mat, yeah boys, an overland map, enemy chips, nice, more enemy chips is very good. Tokens, skill dice, class sheets, interesting. So we have class sheets, just two of them here instead of, I believe we had 3 in Valenwood, so they're slightly changing the formal, I think, which is pretty interesting. So we have skill line sheets, yeah, 2 of them, and no classes unless I missed something. So we have, oh yeah, 2 class sheets, yeah, of course. Yeah, so 2 more skill lines and 2 more classes. And let's check what those classes are. So we have mages and Edric Spear and Assassin and okay, so what's another skill line? So we have Mage, Edric Spear, and Edric, how do you pronounce this? And Assassins and what's another skill line? Okay, probably I missed that a bit, but okay, this is more little bit explanation. So we have 2 classes, Mage and Assassin. So we're so looking forward to that. And yeah, assassination, yeah, and network spear, yeah, that actually makes sense now. Okay, and this is what I was talking about, that by moving all those things straight into base game, you increase just the variety of builds of your potential, especially if you're playing with multiple people. It makes the build planning and construction so much easier. Yeah, more enemies and more, I think, do we have more? No, we had Arcane before, but yeah, this is so cool. Okay, more skill lines, more all of this goody stuff. Okay, next expansion we have Elsweyr. Oh, how do you pronounce this? I'm pretty sure you can let me know in the comments. And yeah, I think we have now the same structure of two class sheets and 2 skill lines, 2 of each. So yeah, makes sense now. And this time we're gonna have a Thief class, Berserker, medium armor, and soul magic. Wow. This is so cool. So much variety, and I'm honestly quite surprised to see medium armor, because based on what I read about some kind of the source material, I was just thinking that maybe it's already implemented in a game in a way of the acrobatic skill line. I don't know, but it's cool that we have now all different kind of weight of different armors. We have light armor, we have heavy armor, and now we have medium armor, plus the acrobatics, sort of kind of almost like an armor. Anyway, it's pretty cool, and so magic. Yeah, I think that was very well needed. And yeah, it's just long overdue having another kind of damage dealing magic type skill line. I think this is amazing. Oh, and by the way, a quick heads up that I'll be making a first impressions video, probably separate videos of all of those skill lines and classes, so this is why I'm just scrolling through pretty quickly, otherwise this video will be just 1 hour long. But yeah, just a heads up, more breakdown and first impressions specifically for those skill lines and classes are coming in the next videos. But let's move on in the meantime here. Yeah, the beautiful art, look at this gadget, nice. And Fang Expansion, yeah. Now, I have to confess that I have never played the source material, the Elder Scrolls Online, even though my background is actually in video games and specifically in MMOs. I've been playing World of Warcraft for many years, and even before that I played some Korean MMOs like Aeon and Lineage 2, but somehow SAO kind of completely went under my radar. But I remember even when the base game was just released, people already started asking like, hey, what about vampires and werewolves? And I have and had and still have pretty much no idea how these things work in the Elder Scrolls Online, but I did get that excitement that people apparently wanted. This is something cool, so now I'm excited to see this in the game as well. So here in Testbotsi, these werewolf and vampire things are skill lines, but they're sort of special skill lines, because they can be either one or another, you can't train both, and just the way they walk, again, quite different. I think specifically for werewolf, but again, I'm gonna leave this probably for my first impression and breakdown of the skill lines, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it now, but yeah, they are pretty unique and they're pretty cool. And for the list of components, we have 2 side quests. This is pretty interesting. I wonder if they you meet a vampire on the road and he bites you, and interesting, yeah. I'm curious how this is going to interact with those skill lines themselves. This is pretty interesting, because I don't think we've seen any other skill lines specifically tied to quests or quests to skill lines. So this again going to be pretty interesting to see. And we even have a special, probably little rulebook explaining how things work. So definitely quite unique skill lines that I'm excited about. But to be honest, probably equally or even more excited that the fact that these skill lines are awesome, but even just beyond that. And this is just my speculation, but I think Chip Theory Games are kinda testing the ground on releasing this format, because I don't think we've seen ever additional skill lines just as an extra add-on, because they always been released as part of some other boxes, whether it's obviously the base game and some other provinces. We had the Wellenwood and now Elsweyr and Summerset, but these 2, werewolf and vampire, they're basically just a little box of skill lines alone, and that really makes me excited. Because again, if you think about like what's the finite content that we can have for this game, obviously we know 3 regions as probably what we're gonna have, because obviously this is tied to the source material, to the Elder Scrolls Online, and the Chip Theory Games, they cannot create more provinces that are not exist in the game yet. Very finite number on how many provinces we have, and we already know them, but skill lines are a little bit different. And I can imagine that creating a skill lines, obviously a lot of work, but not as much nearly as creating gazetteers and quests and all of that. And now seeing this little pack releasing just as a standalone thing, as a separate product, just skill lines alone, this honestly makes me excited because this gives me hope that we might see some other skill lines in the future released in that format. Potentially even after the final third extra province will be released. So just as a way of additional extra little content, I think that would be absolutely brilliant. And if this is the way that Chip Theory Games asking for our opinion, hell yes. I'm gonna vote with my pounds, with my wallet, hell yes. I love this format, just skill lines alone. I think this is arguably one of the best part in this game. And of course there are many permutations that make this whole kind of builds variety so cool. We have races, we have classes, we have skills and items and all of that, but I think among all of them, skill lines are probably what I'm personally most excited about because they have much more depth, they have different builds variety even sometimes within the skill line itself. So yeah, just more skill lines releasing potentially as separate products, hell yes, yes please. And before we continue, just let me guys know what you think about this format. Would you like me to do potentially some similar video but for other campaigns that I'm backing or other campaigns that I'm thinking to back and share it with you as well? Again, this is a brand new format for me. I've never done anything like that before, but please let me know in the comments. Alright, and we can move on. Let's see what's there. Yep, werewolf and transforming into werewolf. This is cool. The vampire skill line. And yeah, I think this is awesome, especially the format, the way they released it just as skill lines. I think this is awesome. Now next we have Shadow of Oblivion. Now I must admit that out of all the content that we've seen so far, I have the least amount of information about this one specifically and probably not even fully understand what this thing is. And again, from my understanding, this is somewhat like an extra modifiers, if you will, that you can make the game either harder or easier, or both sometimes, because you get very powerful items, kind of Daedric brings here apparently, but when you mix them in your deck, you also have very powerful enemies chasing you on those seekers, and they are pretty brutal. I mean, you just look at those stats, they cornered, intimidate, blind, and yeah, a lot of range. These are pretty powerful enemies, so I wonder how this is gonna work. Honestly, I probably don't know full details, not sure I fully understand all details, but let's actually have a read. So we have 13 enemy chiefs, we have hedonism tokens and chip, interesting. I have no idea what that is. And we have skill dice, fatigue dice, interesting, more fatigue dice. I did not expect that. And we have items and drawback. I wonder if there's gonna be a separate drawback from like we normally have with enemies. Wow. This is interesting. And reference sheets and rule sheets, and we have 6 of them. So apparently the rules are slightly different. It's not like a rule book, it's a rules sheets that I guess different for every different kind of modifier, if you will. Wow. There's probably more to it, but I'm now really excited. Gonna see how this is gonna work, like all of this together. So do you put all of those enemies in a bag and then randomly draw whenever you get one of those powerful rings? Interesting. To me, this sounds like Chip Theory Games, they are kind of experimenting a little bit with the world building, if you will, trying something outside of your character. These are not like skill lines or classes, but something that affects the movement, the world, and a little bit experimental thing probably. But I'm now really curious to hear more of this and kind of seeing this in action. Let's actually have a look at what this ring does. Your magic stat is increased by 1. Now, this item has no effect if you have multiple death dealer feats in your inventory. Okay, so, and we've seen, I think this one, it shows that increase your health by 3, which is actually quite huge if you especially think about some other synergy with certain items. And yes, 2-handed skill line, I'm looking at you. That we have execute and cleave scale with health, so this extra 3 health is just absolutely huge. But there obviously must be some kind of a balancing, some kind of drawback, which, as far as I can tell, are those seeker enemies that I will be seeking and hunting you down. This is pretty cool, I think. And I think it's also pretty interesting that these are the same enemies, I mean with the same name, but they have different stats. And I don't think we've seen anything like that before. So as you can see, these enemies, they have the same art and have the same name, but they have different skills. So this is cornered and this has blind. So all of them are slightly different, but I think this is pretty cool. This again I think this whole pack is pretty experimental in the way they want to add a new layer of something interesting, but without maybe affecting your characters directly. I mean, not in a form, at least in like class sheets and skill lines, but probably more like an encounters or itemization and the way you can approach certain things. I think this is pretty cool. And now looking at those tokens, look at that. Looking at the size, they actually remind me, they're probably the same size as these stat tokens. Which means like the green, blue, and health, like magic, stamina, and all of that. Does it mean you can potentially limit some of the stats? Again, I have no idea honestly how this all gonna play out, but I do really appreciate the experimentation and new approach to things that we've never seen before. I think this is cool in that sense. Hello. But now moving on, we have the deluxe storage. Yeah, this is something I'm very passionate about, all the storage, all the organizers, inserts. Whenever I buy a new game, the first thing I do is check if there is any custom insert available for this game, if it needed, or whether the game already itself provides enough good solutions. So I just love organizing components and having them all handy and all of that. But here, it's not only handy, it looks also beautiful. It looks like we have the main storage box plus a separate thing for gazetteers. And honestly, probably the very first thing I do when I see like any big game box or any big storage solution like that is check whether it's Calyx friendly. And yes, luckily we already know that because it says the ultimate Calyx friendly storage solution. Thank you, Chip3 Games. There's nothing worse than buying a huge expensive box or a storage solution that looks beautiful but you can't fit this in Calyx, and that is a disaster. So yes, luckily this is Calyx friendly, good stuff already. So what's inside? Are they gonna show us the components? Guild Vault with metal embedded front cover, okay, nice. I must say that I have never experienced a kind of similar Guild Vaults for other Chip3 games, whether it be, I think, Cloud Spy storage and Too Many Bones. I know they exist, but I never seen them actually in action, so again, this is completely brand new to me. So they say the magnetic embedded front cover, reinforced drawers with magnetic fronts, okay, nice. Map tokens, region, card and ship storage trays, deluxe character trays. Interesting, it looks like even the deluxe components, like these photos, gonna feed there. This is interesting. Magnetic drawer key, secondary storage for gazettees, yeah, with the special thing. Wow, this is interesting. Magnetic drawer, all right. Seamless drawer, region trays. Okay, so character trays are not followers, these are just enhanced thickness and durability. Wow, even with new voids for saving mid-session, you look at that. And even to feed race, skills and classes? Wow, interesting. Does this make the follow essentially obsolete? Interesting, I don't know. This is one of the things that I didn't know that I needed, but now looking and reading that, I need this thing. Apparently it's so cool. We have vault drawers with magnetic fronts. Yeah, alright. Interesting, quick table setup. I wonder how they make this thing. Because generally speaking, I prefer, like generally speaking, there are two ways of storing the components. You can either store them by component type, for example, store all cards together and all chips together, or there is a way of sorting them by the way how do you use them. So in this case, by provinces. And personally, I always prefer kind of the second method of sorting things, to keeping them by the way you use them. So for example, if I need something for Black Marsh, I would rather prefer to have everything like a Black Marsh section that would include both, the cards and the chips, rather than going to two different sections for where I need some cards and some chips separately. But we'll see. I trust Chip3 Games in that way, that they will do a good kind of storage solution here, just based on what we have already in the base game. I think that is very solid already. But this, alright, actually, look. Does this magnetic lead and token holders? Magnetic map holder, yes please! Oh my goodness, I didn't realize that before. So map can be passed around the table, eliminates token bumping. Hell yes! Oh my! I've seen some custom solutions people doing, they've been using glue tags, and even magnetic thing that usually is not aligned really well. If you put some kind of magnetic sheet underneath, it's still not as pretty, not as handy. But now with magnetic thing for the map, hell yes, please. Wow, this is awesome. I really like these kind of things. So we have this little magnetic trays for for this map tokens, for the overlay tokens. Wow, this is so nice! I just love this kind of thing. I think they're very cute. And yeah, just not only the aesthetically pleasantly, but of course they actually do kind of big, I think, improve the quality of life of at least board gaming life, if you will. And then we have this as separate gazetteer storage box that reinforced thick cardboard walls holds 12 to 15 spiral booklets. Interesting. Gazetteers, rulebooks and tutorials, including integrated device for easy organization. Okay, so it looks like those organization, kind of the dividers inside, looks like they can be moved, at least from I can tell, dividers or not. Interesting. Stored vertically or horizontally. Wow, this is really nice. I just hope, yeah, that they have enough kind of different sections that we can enough dividers basically to hold, kind of keep each gazetteer separately rather than, you know, making some Tetris with them. That's kind of my personal wish list for that. But yeah, I think it looks absolutely awesome. And if it really does everything what it says, which I believe it will, then it is really awesome. Now let's move on to the shipping. And yep, wow, this is actually pretty reasonable shipping, I must say, for the stuff. And it's a flat rate, means no matter what you add, shipping does not increase. Thumbs up. Chip3 Games, really appreciate that. And yep, that's, I think the price is very reasonable as well, though additional shipping for the Guild Vault. And yeah, I can understand why, because from what I've read and heard, those kind of empty boxes are the most expensive things to ship, because they have a lot of volume in stuff, but they don't have enough weight, so they can be a little bit fragile sometimes, so you need extra protection, which means extra boxes, extra value of movable stuff, which yeah, makes it expensive. I'm not saying I'm happy to pay extra, but obviously this is understandable, so pretty reasonable, I would say. Now taxes, of course, and what about the languages? Yeah, it's an English language. I think Chip3 Games have been very clear and transparent about this, with all the difficulties that they encounter with the other language editions. This is now they move forward. They're going to be with only English versions. Alright, so let's see what about the price. New gameplay bundle. So we have nearly £120. How much is that in the US dollars, JBP in USD? That's roughly 160. Right, I think that's actually quite fair price, honestly, for the amount of stuff. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the Valenwood expansion was sold for probably £50, £45, somewhere around that. So now having all this bundle for pretty much the double price of one expansion, I think that, yeah, overall this is pretty good. I didn't do the math, but I must say this looks pretty reasonable to me. Even though I must say each of those expansions and regions specifically, they now include one class sheet and one skill line fewer compared to Valenwood, so they're individually probably a little bit cheaper than Valenwood, but overall this bundle looks great to me. Now explore Tamriel. What is that? This must be the base game alongside three provinces. Let's have a look. Yep, that's the base game alongside 3 expansions and adventure cache. That must be, oh yeah, the adventure, the unlockable thing, the crowdfunding campaign, of course. Yeah, so basically the stretch goals, I would say. And now the price for the base game is what it is. I heard some people say it is expensive, and obviously everyone thinks differently, but I think, like, the way I frame it is, whenever I buy any new game, do I need sleeves and how many? And by the way, I'm a serial sleever. I sleeve pretty much all the cards, and as already mentioned, I love organizers and inserts, and this is one of the very first things I check whether I'm interested in purchasing a new game. Does it need sleeves and how many, and what organizers do I need? But for the Elder Scrolls and for the base game specifically, it doesn't need any extra organizer, because I think the base game just fits everything perfectly and quite neatly and securely. And probably even more importantly, because all cards are PVC cards, you don't need any sleeves, and I don't think many people realize, at least the sleevers, how much it saves you from otherwise extra purchase that you would need to make. I think for a game of kind of this scale, this scope, and the amount of cards you have, if they wouldn't be a PVC cards, you would probably pay maybe another £50, or maybe even more, depending on how many cards there. And for the same probably for the custom insert, whether you are 3D printing and whether you are looking for something else entirely different, I think probably around that, the same £50-70, that would be a reasonable amount to pay for the insert. But again, the fact that you don't need neither of them, you don't need sleeves and you don't need extra organizer for the base game, makes it maybe not as expensive as you might think. Again, completely understand that the definition of cheap and expensive are different and vary, but this is at least kind of one frame that I look at the big games like that. And we have the all gameplay stuff. Wow, Yeah, this is a big box, obviously, a lot of stuff here, and all in. I'm curious what's the difference between the two. Oh yeah, I think it's all the extra things, like the deluxe inventories, deluxe draw bags, and the art book. By the way, I missed the art book on the first edition. This is something definitely on my radar. And by the way, just if you're curious about all of those kind of deluxe extra components, whether it's the draw bag, the blacksmith pack, and the adventure photos, and the battle mat, I have a separate video where I do kind of review of those components, giving my pros and cons, whether they are worth it, and the premium health chips and all of that. So if you're thinking about these premium components and whether they're worth it, definitely check out this video. And in the meantime, let's move on and see what's here. We have the additional base game as a separate thing, and we have all of them separately. Yep, as I said, the price is a little bit cheaper than compared to Valenwood, which makes sense given there is one class and one skill line fewer. And you look at this cute price of Fang, £15 for 2 skill lines. Now obviously, if you look at price per component, this might be actually the most expensive thing, especially compared to the base game. But I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm totally perfectly fine for paying £15 for 2 skill lines, if this is something Chip Theory Games kind of testing as whether it's a viable thing to do this in that format. Yes, that's a big hell yes please from me. And we have, of course, Heroes of Tamriel, which apparently now includes not only the new heroes, but also a new class and a new skill line, which again, something that I didn't see coming personally. I think this is awesome. Shadows of Oblivion. I was expecting the price for this one to be, maybe the same as Fang, but now actually seeing that there is some more components, more stuff, which I don't even know what they're for, to be honest. But yeah, this actually makes it pretty reasonable, I guess. And we have the Valenwood. Oh, interesting. The price for Valenwood, look, it's the same as on these now. Is this like campaign discount? I don't know, interesting. Huh. I would say this is definitely now a great opportunity to grab the Elsweyr Expansion if you don't have it, and if that's your thing at all, of course. And we have the Cheese of Tamriel and Chef class, and yeah, those deluxe bags. And oh look, we have the errata sticker set. Interesting. And it doesn't cost anything, look at that. And if your pledge contains the base game, you don't need the sticker set. Yeah, makes sense. Wow, I'm really glad they're making all those changes. They probably, like, from my understanding, it's not only errata, but also a couple of mechanic things, like specifically blind. I remember it was discussed on Discord, because they basically changing the way it works. And I wonder if this set includes that part as well or not. But anyway, the fact that it's free, I think this is very legit, very good thing from Chip Theory Games. And yeah, what's the price for Guild Vault? Wow, basically like a same price as the base game. It does cost a lot, I must admit, but this does look so good, I must say. Yeah, this price, I don't think there is any way of we'll see them any cheaper anytime soon, if any at all. So this is probably the best bets that we can have now, the best price. And oh, look at that, Blacksmith Pack Volume 2. Huh, this is something new. We have metal chip holder, metal, basically all those metal things, £20. Now, I have the 20 strong Tanglewood's red, and also kind of the similar dice tracker, also in metal. And I must say, it's awesome. It's so heavy, and it does make a difference when you hold it. It's just, again, the tactile experience, kind of cool. So I would definitely want this thing. But would I want this for a cheaper price? Definitely. Is it possible though? Not sure, probably not. Again, this is not something anyone needs really. This is obviously like a deluxe thing, but I must say this is pretty cool. It's probably something I want actually. I'm gonna probably add this to my pledge. Inventory packs, leather dice tray, and already again, as I mentioned, I have a separate kind of review video for those components. And I believe in that my review video, I mentioned that I'm gonna probably gonna purchase another leather dice tray simply because it's so good, and in fact I did. And I have 2 of them, or probably 3 of them actually, here in my shelf, just because they are so good. And the premium art book, I believe it's the same as it were in the first kind of wave of campaign. That must be the same. I don't think they include any new art, otherwise it would be a little bit unfair to people who can already had the first edition book, but now with extra art. Yeah, I think they're probably the same as the one they have, which is all cool and fair, I think. Alright, so did we see all of them? Oh wow, look at that. They already show what we can expect from the stretch goals. So we have new class, Quartermaster. Oh, I see that. Okay, this now makes sense why why these new 2 provinces, they had fewer class sheets and skill lines, because that's probably what their plan. This is what they're gonna add to those regions. Okay, this makes perfect sense to me now. Okay, so Quartermaster. All right, and Shadow of Oblivion, some other more chips, I believe. A new skill line for what's that? Let's see. Skill line Soul Magic. Did we already unlock this? Huh, interesting. Okay. Yep. Golden meat trade. What? Golden? But this is ridiculous. What? Alright. A dragon token. Okay. More enemies. Yes, please. And we have what's that? New skill line Green Balance? What? I definitely didn't see this coming. So Green Balance is a stamina based skill line that promises Spore Addict fungusy things. What? Wow. This is interesting. And more encounters in Foreign Fang. Okay, so even that pack will be kind of beefed up slightly with extra cards. Interesting. More enemy chips. Yes, please. And we have Iadric Spear of this. Now, I must say I'm a little bit confused, but I thought this skill line is already included in that province. Interesting. And more cash items. Yes, please. More enemies. Again, more items and more enemies. Yes, please. And more classes. Battle Mage. Yes, please. Wow. Okay, I think these stretch goals looks kind of somewhat expected, but at the same time very unexpected. I think this is amazing. I mean, I kind of thought we might see some extra enemy chips, but I didn't see that we're gonna have new classes added to the stretch goals as well. I think this is awesome. And what's already unlocked? Yep, nothing unlocked just yet. Probably need to refresh the page and we'll see already a couple stretch goals unlocked. And yep, I think this is all good. And what's about the timeline? Did they mention that? Crowdfunding, 7 days. Okay, this is a pretty short, kind of very focused campaign, I guess. Did they mention the timeline? The project timeline? Is there anything? Did I miss? Rewarding. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, maybe in the shipping? No, that's the shipping price, I believe. Okay, I'm pretty sure you guys can let me know in the comments if you notice any mention of a shipping date, which I haven't seen yet. Probably I need to read it more in details. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I don't see pretty much anything that I wouldn't like. I think all in all, this is a fantastic bundle with loads of good stuff, and it's one of those expansions that you can get the value right away as soon as I mix it in your base game. You don't need to wait to finish another 100 of sessions before you're doing that. And so this is a really good thing. So I'm really excited about that. And well, I think that's the wrap of this video, my honest thoughts on this campaign page. Let me know what you guys think about this format, whether you find it interesting at all. I've never done this before, and of course I'm planning to make more videos and specifically about some of those new skill lines and classes that have been sent to me as a prototype copies, so definitely check that out. These are videos that probably won't be as detailed as my usual class guides and skill lines explained, but I'll do my best to kind of give my first impressions. So this is why I'm probably gonna break it down in several videos, because I do still want to spend some time to get and discussing this and kind of nerdy details about all of these things. So definitely hit the subscribe button to not miss any of this stuff. But of course, in the meantime, feel free to watch 20 other testbots videos already on my channel. Very deep dive, in-depth class guides and breakdown of skill lines and all of those good stuff. And well, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video.